Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is September 28th, 2023, and we are in the Old Testament book of 2 Samuel. We're going to read chapter 17, verse 24 to chapter 18, verse 33. Okay, so Absalom, one of David's sons, has decided to stage a coup and seize the kingdom for himself. David has fled Jerusalem with a handful of people. David was pretty clever, though. He left some spies in Jerusalem so he would know what Absalom was going to do, and one of those was one of his advisors, because his chief advisor switched sides and went with Absalom. So that chief advisor gave Absalom some good advice. The spy advisor that David left gave him a little bit different advice and tried to flatter him, and that worked, and Absalom delays chasing after David. Now this gives David some time to get entrenched and get a fortress going and create a defense for himself, and that's where this story takes off. Absalom pursues with his army, and we see that Absalom was not much of a general. He gets wiped out, all of his forces. David, however, he was battle hardened. He's got battle hardened men with him. They prevail. Before the fight, David tells everyone, keep Absalom alive. Don't hurt Absalom. He's my son. Keep him alive. Now, during the battle, we find out that there was a really bad forest there that killed more men than the soldiers did, essentially. And one of those people is Absalom, who gets hung up by his neck in a tree. He's still alive when a soldier sees him, and he runs and tells Joab and says, "Hey, Joab, Absalom is hanging in a tree." And Joab says, "Why didn't you kill him?" And the guy says, "Hey, we all heard David say spare him." And Joab says, "Screw that," grabs some javelins, boom, boom. He stabs Absalom 3 times and kills him. One of his men says, "Okay, I'm going to run and tell the king what happened." And Joab says, "No, don't go do that. Bad idea." "No, I really want to go." Bad idea. And we understand what he's getting at is whenever someone brings news of someone they perceive as David's enemy has died on the battlefield, he would kill him, because David wasn't looking for the death of his enemy. He was looking for the surrender of his enemy, basically. So he was hoping Absalom would be captured and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'll never do it again." News is brought to David that Absalom is dead, and David goes into a great mourning for his son, which, understandable from a father's perspective, but as a king, this guy just tried to depose you and kill you. He would have killed you. Why are you mourning him? And that's basically where this story ends, or this part of the story ends. So let's go ahead and read 2 Samuel chapter 17, verse 24 to 18:33. Then David went to Mahanaim, and Absalom crossed over the Jordan, he and all the men of Israel with him. And Absalom made Amas captain of the army instead of Joab. This Amas was the son of a man whose name was Ithra, an Israelite who had gone in to Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, sister of Zeruiah, Joab's mother. So Israel and Absalom encamped in the land of Gilead. Now it happened, when David had come to Mahanaim, that Shobi, the son of Nahash, from Reba of the people of Ammon, Machar, the son of Amiel, from Lo-debar, and Barzillai the Gileadite from Rogelem, brought beds and basins, earthen vessels, and wheat and barley and flour, parched grain and beans, lentils and parched seeds, honey and curds, sheep and cheese of the herd, for David and the people who were with him to eat. For they said, "The people are hungry and weary and thirsty in the wilderness." And David numbered the people who were with him, and set captains over thousands, and captains over hundreds over them. Then David sent out 1/3 of the people under the hand of Joab, 1/3 under the hand of Abishai the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, and 1/3 under the hand of Ittai the Gittite. And the king said to the people, "I also will surely go out with you myself." But the people answered, "You shall not go out, for if we flee away, they will not care about us, nor if half of us die will they not care about us. But you are worth 10,000 of us now, for you are now more help to us in the city." Then the king said to them, "Whatever seems best to you I will do." So the king stood beside the gate, and all the people went out by hundreds and by thousands. Now the king had commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, saying, "Deal gently for my sake with the young man Absalom." And all the people heard when the king gave all the captains orders concerning Absalom. So the people went out into the field of battle against Israel, and the battle was in the woods of Ephraim. The people of Israel were overthrown there before the servants of David, and a great slaughter of 20,000 took place there that day. For the battle there was scattered over the face of the whole countryside, and the woods devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. Then Absalom met the servants of David. Absalom rode on a mule. The mule went under a thick bough of a great terebinth tree, and his head caught in the terebinth, so he was left hanging between heaven and earth. And the mule which was under him went on. Now a certain man saw it and told Joab, and said, I just saw Absalom hanging in a terebinth tree. Joab said to the man who told him, You just saw him, and why did you not strike him there to the ground? I would have given you 10 shekels of silver and a belt. But the man said to Joab, Though I would receive 1,000 shekels of silver in my hand, I would not raise my hand against the king's son. For in our hearing the king commanded you and Abishai and Ittai, saying, Beware lest anyone touch the young man Absalom. Otherwise I would have dealt falsely against my own life. For there is nothing hidden from the king, and you yourself would have set yourself against me. Then Joab said, I cannot linger with you. And he took 3 spears in his hand and thrust them through Absalom's heart, which was still alive in the midst of the terebinth tree. And 10 young men who bore Joab's armor surrounded Absalom and struck and killed him. So Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing Israel, for Joab held back the people. And they took Absalom and cast him into a large pit in the woods, laid a very large heap of stones over him. Then all Israel fled, everyone to his tent. Now Absalom in his lifetime had taken and set up a pillar for himself, which is in the king's valley, for he said, I have no son to keep my name in remembrance. He called the pillar after his own name, and to this day it is called Absalom's monument. Then Ahimaaz the son of Zadok said, Let me run now and take the news to the king, how the Lord has avenged him of his enemies. And Joab said to him, You shall not take the news this day, for you shall take the news another day. But today you shall take no news, because the king's son is dead. Then Joab said to the Cushite, Go tell the king what you have seen. So the Cushite bowed himself to Joab and ran. And Ahimaaz the son of Zadok said again to Joab, But whatever happens, please let me also run after the Cushite. So Joab said, Why will you run, my son, since you have no news ready? But whatever happens, he said, Let me run. So he said to him, Run. Then Ahimaaz ran by way of the plain and outran the Cushite. Now David was sitting between the 2 gates, and the watchman went up to the roof over the gate to the wall, lifted his eyes and looked, and there was a man running alone. Then the watchman cried out and told the king, and the king said, If he is alone, there is news in his mouth. And he came rapidly and drew near. Then the watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called to the gatekeeper and said, There is another man running alone. And the king said, He also brings news. So the watchman said, I think the running of the first is like the running of Ahimaaz the son of Zadok. And the king said, He is a good man and comes with good news. So Ahimaaz called out and said to the king, All is well. Then he bowed down with his face to the earth before the king and said, Blessed be the Lord your God, who has delivered up the men who raised their hand against my lord the king. The king said, Is the young man Absalom safe? Ahimaaz answered, When Joab sent the king's servant and me your servant, I saw a great tumult, but I did not know what it was about. And the king said, Turn aside and stand here. So he turned aside and stood still. Just then the Cushite came, and the Cushite said, There is good news, my lord the king, for the Lord has avenged you this day of all who rose against you. And the king said to the Cushite, Is the young man Absalom safe? So the Cushite answered, May the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise against you do harm. Be like that young man. Then the king was deeply moved and went up to the chamber over the gate and wept. And as he went, he said thus, O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died in your place, O Absalom, my son, my son. May God bless reading his word. May God bless you. Bye.